So once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, in the room. Thank you for joining us for unleashing the potential in you. And for those watching online as well, I want to say good morning. I know that there are people watching from Nigeria, people watching from America, people watching from the UK. So as many of you are watching, I want you to give us likes, share comments on YouTube, share it with people, and make sure that you have your questions on the comment section as well, because today is going to be a great day. And for those in the room, I just want you to rise up on your feet this morning real quick. There's something I like to do when we start events like this. This is a great time that we are going to be learning some valuable information, but sometimes you walk into a room and you don't know who's next to you. So I want you to go around and say good morning to someone next to you. Just go say a good morning, give them a high five. Give them a high five, give them a high five. That's it, that's the spirit. Give them a high five. Good morning, good morning. All right, so how many people are excited to be in the room this morning? Oh, you can do louder than that. Awesome. Because I want the people on YouTube to hear your voices. I want them to hear that you're in the room. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Now, my name is Sean David Onomusi. I'm a published author. I'm also a business strategist and a serial entrepreneur. My focus over the years has been inspiring young people to their potential. I've been pushing people through my books. I have 2 published books that are focused solely on unraveling the talents and the gifts of people. The first book I wrote is called Knowing Your Game, and I will tell you more about that because it's definitely a good precursor for this morning. But for those watching online, if you want to understand what we are doing today, this is Unleashing the Potential in You. And this is also the official launch of AAA Inspire. AAA Inspire is an organization that has been put together by the wonderful Mr. Afolabi Andrew, who happens to be a father, a mentor, and a coach to myself and to many people across the world. So if you're in the room, I want you to put your hands together for Mr. Afolabi Andrew. I am going to be introducing him later, but it's definitely AAA it's a movement. It's an organization that is going to continue to transform lives. Now, AAA has been ongoing for well over 2 to 3 decades, and his focus as the convener of AAA has been to challenge people to also put together life-changing events around nation building, around people development, around the spiritual and financial development of people. So I would allow him to give more information around it, but today we have himself and the wonderful Dr. Yemisi Andrew, his beautiful wife, who will also be sharing about health and how health is wealth. I know you've heard it before, that health is wealth. But today we're going to go into the details on how health is wealth, because it's something that a lot of people say, but they don't even have a clue how to translate that into practical steps. How is health wealth? So we are going to be talking about that today as well. So if you're excited about today, I want you to give a round of applause for yourselves for being here again. Fantastic. Now, one thing that is critical in events like this is that we take notes, that we share those notes. It is most times people think that if they just listen to something and they can recollect it. But study shows that you forget about 40 to 60% of the things you learn in less than an hour after you've learnt it. So I would encourage you to take notes, and those that are on YouTube as well, I want you to take notes. Bring out your iPads, your phone notes, your Samsung notes, and put some notes down, and share those in the comments section as well. All right. So going back to what I said about myself, as I said, I'm a published author. And my first book, Knowing Your Game, one of the things that I wrote there is that knowledge is a mental thing, knowing is an experiential thing. What does that mean? Knowledge is a head thing. It's something that you put in your head. But knowing is something that you reveal in your spirit. It's how the first century writer, the Apostle Paul, he wrote in that word, he said that though the outward man may perish, but the inward man is renewed. And that inward man is where you want to live, and that's where you want to put your dreams and your aspirations. And to the topic that we're going to be sharing today about unleashing your potential, I believe that every single one of us have been called here for a purpose. There's nobody that's a mistake. I don't care how you got here. I don't care the background that you have, but as I love to say, never let your background put your back to the ground. Your background does not determine how far you go. I don't care if the parents never planned you, if you were a love child or if you were not. I don't care. Whatever is going on in your past does not determine your future. And there's something that made you necessary in the mind of God. There is something that made you necessary. And I don't think a lot of people understand that enough. A lot of people don't get that. And it's critical to understand that nobody is an accident. You didn't come here because mommy and daddy got together. Activity is not what brings forth a child. Can I get an amen? It's not activities that brings forth a child. It's something in the mind of God. God looked to you and said, there's something that I need done on earth, and that's why I'm sending you. So no one is an accident. So I want to remind those who are watching online that you are not here by accident. You are not watching this by accident. You are in no wise listening to my words by accident. In fact, a lot of people would have loved to be here this morning. A lot of people would have loved to tune in this morning, but they are not. You are, and there's a reason why you are. So I want that to be your focal point as we talk through this morning. Now, without further ado, I am going to bring on stage Dr. Bridget Oluyemisi Andu, who is going to be looking at how health is wealth. Now, there's something I practically teach. I call it the 7 areas of fulfillment. I believe that success is not about material things. Success is not about accomplishments. It should be about fulfillment. That's why a lot of billionaires, with all the money they have in the world, a number of them take their own lives. Why do they do that? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Why do they do that? Because the money has not brought the fulfillment. The money has not brought the fulfillment. You find people who are very popular, extremely popular, but yet they are not in any wise feeling fulfilled. They still have depression, they still have anxiety, they still live in a dark space because no amount of notoriety, right, can fill that gap. There's a gap. And one of the gaps that I teach people when I talk about 7 areas of fulfillment is that, first of all, you have to set plans around your financial life. Money is critical for the fulfillment of your purpose. You cannot live it to chance. And then spiritual, you have to have spiritual goals that you work towards. Now, for those in the room, I'm sure that's nothing new to you because we are in a church building and perhaps most of you are spiritual. So you've heard that enough. But I also say that there is something called the physical health, the physical success. It is important because your body is a temple. Your body is the only temple that you have to fulfill your dreams. You can have all the dreams in the world, but if your body shuts down, there's nothing that you can do about it. And that's why what Dr. Bridget Oluyemisi Andu is going to be talking about this morning is very critical. So let me read out Dr. Oluyemisi Andu's profile as I bring her to the stage. Dr. Bridget holds a BA honors degrees in biology from Boston University, USA, MBBS from University of Jos, Nigeria, and Dr. Andu joined the NHS over 20 years ago and currently is a specialty grade doctor in geriatric medicine. She's also a certified health coach from the Institute of Integrated Nutrition in the USA. Her passion is to help people to enjoy a healthy and balanced lifestyle. And this is done through her organization, Eden Lifestyle. She's currently working on a book titled Beauty of Life, a Healthy Living Guide. Other interests include singing in her local church, reading and keeping fit. She's happily married to Afolabi Andu, and they are blessed with 3 adult children. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Bridget Oluyemisi Andu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for being with us this morning on this, our maiden event. I'll be talking about health is wealth, which is truly a topic that a lot of us are interested in our world of today. And a lot of us know about the things we need to do, but I'm not so sure we all do the things that we need to do, because sometimes it seems a little difficult. But I'm hoping that as I share this brief talk this morning, that we'll earn a few tips that will help us moving forward. Unfortunately, I have a PowerPoint presentation which, unfortunately, because of logistics, I can't share, but I will talk through, and for those in the room, they'll be able to see it, and I will talk you through the pictures. So, health is wealth. This phrase means that good health is one of the most valuable assets a person can have. It suggests that health is more important than material wealth, because without good health, a person cannot enjoy the benefits of their wealth, which is true. Health can be defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease, which means it's not just about eating healthy, though this is an important aspect. Having good health means physically, mentally, and emotionally being fit and being able to enjoy life to the fullest. When you are healthy, you have the energy and motivation to pursue your goals, and you can engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. On the other hand, poor health means that this limits your ability to work, to socialize, and to enjoy life, which can lead to significant medical expenses and loss of productivity. Can I have the next slide, please? So my next slide is just a picture of the 5 pillars of healthy lifestyle, which include eating healthily, managing stress, exercise, taking a hobby, and having adequate rest. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through some components of a healthy lifestyle. And of course, the first one, the most important one, I think, is eating a balanced diet. We all know that this is important, as the foods we consume play a vital part in determining our physical and mental health. We need to follow the principle of eating clean, which involves the following: keep it whole. What do I mean by this? Whole foods are foods that occur in nature and have not been processed, so we need to stick to whole foods. These include fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and grass-fed and free-range meats. Another aspect of keeping it clean is home cooking. This ensures that the food you make is healthier and fresher than what you buy in restaurants and fast food outlets. And it also helps you control your recipes and portion sizes. And this is quite important because when you cook and you dish your food yourself, you can control your portions, whereas in a restaurant, it's, a good portion. And this helps reduce the risk of obesity. Today, we even have counselors recommending cooking as therapy for those suffering from mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. So it's important to cook. And for those of you who maybe are not in our environment here, who have the privilege of having a cook, maybe on once a week or a couple of times a week, give your cook the day off and you get in the kitchen, because it's also good for your mental health. Also, we need to avoid refined carbohydrates. These include sugars and refined grains. Sugars are refined and processed, such as table sugar, and refined grains, these are grains that have had the fibrous and nutritious parts removed. The biggest source of this is white flour, as these carbs have been stripped of almost all the fiber and vitamins and minerals, which are considered empty calories. So the reason we need to avoid these refined carbs are that these foods are digested quickly and have a high glycemic index, which means they lead to rapid spikes in blood sugar and insulin levels after a meal. Eating foods high on the glycemic index has been linked to overeating and increased risk of obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, colon cancer, and other digestive problems. Can I have my slides? Next slide. I think we're on. Next slide. Next slide after this. Great. So these foods, which I said are on the high glycemic index, they promote short-term fullness, lasting only about an hour or so, which promotes hunger and craving. So in other words, if you eat something that has like a croissant or a bagel or something like that, you feel full, or some sort of pastry, you only feel full but about an hour, which means you crave for something in a short amount of time. The foods which are low on the glycemic index, which are fruit and vegetables, for instance, promote a sustained feeling of fullness, which lasts about 2 to 3 hours. For those in the room, so you can see, crisps, white flour, pasta, soft drinks. So the main types of dietary sources of refined carbs are white flour, white bread, white rice, pastries, snacks, pasta, sweets, sugary soft drinks, and breakfast cereals. Next slide, please. There should be a slide before this one. Thank you. My next slide just shows the difference between the foods that I consider refined, which are on the right-hand side for those in the room, and whole carbs, which are better, which are the left side. And these include, for those who are not in the room, fruit, leafy green vegetables, beans, whole grains, corn, maize. These are whole carbohydrates. And then the refined ones, like I mentioned before, which are pretty much empty calories, are candies, soda, pastries, white rice, white flour, white breads. So we need to avoid these foods as much as possible because they've got all the vitamins, and they're low in calories, highly processed, and they have low fiber in them. So we need to avoid these. Next slide, please. So the best thing we need to do is on our plate, we need to combine protein, fats, and complex carbohydrates. You should try to get a serving from each group at each meal, as these will create optimal sugar levels and delay cravings. Good sources of proteins are grass-fed meat, fish, tofu. Great fats include avocado, olive oil, nuts, and seeds. And examples of complex carbs are quinoa, brown rice, and sweet potato. Next slide, please. Our next pretty much important aspect of healthy living, which we all also know about because it's all in the news and in the media, is staying physically active. We need to find an activity that you enjoy and that you can fit into your routine, as exercise helps you burn excess calories that you cannot lose through diet alone. I know, and this is why I'm stressing the point that get an activity that you enjoy and that you can fit into your routine. If you don't enjoy jogging, which I don't take up jogging. I enjoy going to the gym. Go to the gym. If you enjoy cycling, let that be what you do. If you enjoy walking. So find something that you enjoy, because that's the only way you will sustain it. Because to keep physically fit, we need to sustain whatever activity we do has to be a lifelong thing. So it's not doing it just to lose weight, but we do it to keep fit and to help us. Some of the benefits of regular physical activity are that it improves your heart and lung function. It also reduces the risk of you developing such diseases such as diabetes and heart disease. It stimulates the growth of new brain cells. It adds years to your life. And it cuts the risk of premature death by about 50% in men and women. And it also helps combat stress. Next slide, please. So for those in the room, for those who are not in the room, it's just a picture of our body. And it shows why being active every day. So that's why I'm saying you need to find something that you can do every day. It's not just about losing weight, but it's about keeping healthy. Because from this picture we see, keeping healthy affects every organ in your body. It improves your mood, it boosts your immune system, it increases your energy levels, it reduces fatigue, it improves your sleep. Like I said before, it improves brain functioning, it helps reduce obesity, it helps reduce anxiety, it improves your cholesterol levels, it improves your memory, body image, reduces stress, improves concentration, reduces coronary artery disease, improves your breathing, it helps you maintain a weight, and it helps your posture. So every aspect, every organ in your body, in some way, shape, or form, is affected by being active every day. And I can't stress that enough. Don't make it seem as though it's something you do a couple of times a week. No, we need to do some sort of activity every day. Next slide, please. So our exercise routine should include aerobics, strength training, core exercises, balance training, stretching to lose weight, and you need a minimum of about 20 minutes spent on aerobic exercise. And for maintenance, it is recommended that we do some form of moderate physical activity, like I explained before, every day for 30 minutes. So once you get to that weight that you're happy with, you need to maintain it. And this is why I'm saying we need to be active every day. Next slide, please. Another important part of keeping healthy is getting enough rest. And I think this is something that also people talk about the food, they talk about the exercise, but we don't really focus on rest. And this is very important. Rest is essential for good health, as it plays a critical role in many different aspects of our physical and mental well-being. Some of the ways that sleep can affect your health is that it boosts your immune system. During sleep, the body produces cytokines, which are proteins that can help fight infection, inflammation, and stress. It also, having good rest, enhances your memory and cognitive function, and sleep is crucial for consolidating memories and promoting learning, which means, especially for young children, it's important that we get our children to have their 8 hours or so sleep, because, this helps their learning and promotes consolidating your memory. It also improves attention, concentration, and problem-solving skills. So maybe for those children who the teachers are complaining they're not attentive, they're not concentrating in school, they don't have good problem-solving skills, are they getting enough sleep, parents? Another aspect of sleep is that it helps to regulate our hormones, and it regulates the production of hormones that affect your appetite, your metabolism, and other body functions. Sleep is also known to reduce the risk of chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and depression. Next slide, please. It improves our mood. So lack of sleep can lead to irritability, mood swings, and even depression. Getting enough sleep can help stabilize your mood and improve your overall emotional well-being. So if you're feeling low in mood, check, are you getting enough sleep? If you're irritable with your family, your friends, are you getting enough sleep? Overall, getting enough quality sleep is essential for maintaining good health and well-being. Most adults need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, although with individuals this may vary, and children and teenagers need even more sleep. Now, I attended an online course 2 days ago, and one of the things that the consultant talked about in relation to sleep is that it's not about the hours you spend in bed. It's about the time you are asleep. That's what's important. So you can spend 10 hours in bed, but only sleep 3 or 4 hours. The other thing is that we need to get rid of our devices. So watching TV before you sleep does not help you get off to sleep. Being on your phone before you sleep is not. They recommend that something like an hour before you want to get to sleep, you need to shut off your phone and switch off that television. And if you are still feeling that you can't sleep is a problem, you might need to speak to your doctor or your healthcare provider. But one thing I think also I gleaned from this talk the other day is an intentional nap is important. So if you have the ability during the day, if you work for yourself, you're working from home, one of the things this sleep consultant mentioned is that an intentional nap is good. And 20 minutes of an intentional nap, so you determine at some point in the day if you feel really groggy and tired and you didn't get a good night's sleep, you sleep for 20 minutes, it's enough to refresh you and revive you for the rest of the day. What's not good is the unintentional one. So if people are falling asleep at their desk and things like that, that's not good, and that may need to be investigated with your healthcare provider. Managing stress. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is another aspect of a healthy lifestyle which I think we don't tend to talk about a lot. Managing stress is really important. Stress is a natural response of our body to an external stimuli that challenges our physical, emotional, or mental well-being. It can be triggered by a wide range of situations, from everyday hassles to major life events, and can have both a positive and a negative effect on our health and well-being. Positive stress. This type of stress motivates and energizes us, provides us with a sense of excitement. So positive stress has its benefits. It helps us focus and accomplish. It can be experienced in situations such as starting a new job because we're excited, getting married, or even exercising. Positive stress can enhance our performance, increase productivity, and help us adapt and grow. On the other hand, negative stress, also known as distress, is this type of stress that can be harmful and overwhelming, affecting our physical, emotional, and mental health in a negative way. It is caused by situations that we can perceive as threatening, uncontrollable, overwhelming, such as a job loss, financial difficulties, or a chronic illness. Negative stress can lead to anxiety, depression, fatigue. It can cause digestive problems and other health issues if not managed effectively. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Therefore, it is important for all of us to manage our stress effectively and adopt healthy coping strategies to minimize the negative effects of stress and promote health and well-being. Some of the things that can help are engaging in physical activity. We can't say this enough. Such activities as yoga, meditation, or deep breathing exercising. Eating a healthy and balanced diet that includes nuts, fruits, and vegetables, whole grains, can also help with stress. Getting enough sleep and establishing a regular sleep routine. That's another thing that's quite important with this issue of sleep. It's a regular routine. So as much as possible, as we try to do it for children, where they get back from school, they do their homework, they eat dinner, they do their chores, give them a regular routine. So you go to bed at 8 o'clock, you wake up at 6 or 7 o'clock. The same routine we as adults need. If it's 10 o'clock, like I said, we need 7 to 9 hours approximately of sleep. So let it be a regular routine as much as possible. You go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock. So by 9 o'clock, you need to start winding down. So it has to be a regular routine, not today it's midnight, tomorrow it's 11 o'clock, the next day it's 8 o'clock. We need a regular routine. That's when we get the benefits. We need to build and maintain supportive relationships with friends and family. Helps with stress. Avoid unhealthy coping mechanisms such as excessive alcohol and drug use. Next slide, please. Other techniques we can adopt are we need to organize our work and living spaces to be clutter-free. In other words, have a peaceful environment. Plan your schedule. Use a daily or weekly planner so you're not all over the place. Prioritize your tasks and focus on one thing at a time. I know as mothers we think that we're super women, but we need to prioritize. And we know we like to multitask as women. We pride ourselves on being able to multitask, but we need also to prioritize and focus on one thing at a time. And another important technique is to delegate where possible. Once you're feeling overwhelmed, let somebody else take a little bit of the stress. Let your husband or your wife help with a chore or two. Let the children help. Delegate wherever possible. At work, delegate wherever possible. Next slide, please. Avoid harmful habits. There are many harmful habits that can negatively impact on our health and well-being. So it's important to avoid these. One of the important ones is smoking. We need to quit smoking if we are smoking or avoid smoking altogether, as smoking is a leading cause of preventable deaths and has been linked to various health issues such as lung cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Excessive alcohol consumption. We'll need to limit our alcohol intake and avoid binge drinking. Excessive alcohol consumption can lead to liver damage, high blood pressure, and increased risks of cancer. It's important also, lack of lack of self-care is also a harmful habit. We need to make time for ourselves to engage in activities that bring us joy and relaxation, such as reading, taking a bath, listening to music, having a spa day. Do something that you enjoy. We need to program that into our routines as well, because avoiding these harmful habits and adopting healthy behaviors can improve your overall health and well-being. Next slide, please. Next slide. So, social connections, maintaining our social connections. This has also been found to keep us healthy and well. Maintaining social connections is important for our overall health and well-being. Some tips to stay connected with friends and others. Make time for socializing. Schedule time for socializing with family and friends. Even when you have a busy schedule, try to make time for a quick phone call or a message to catch up with loved ones. It's found that all this helps us, keeps us healthy. Join social groups or clubs that align with your interests or hobbies. This is a great way to meet new people and connect with others who share your passions. Volunteering. This is also a great way to connect with people, and it gives back to your community. Look for volunteering opportunities in your local area that align with what you are interested in. Next slide, please. So I've just got this. Next slide. You can also use technology. Next slide. No, maintain this slide, sorry. Use technology to also maintain your social connections. By this, you can help stay connected, especially with people that you cannot meet in person. You can do video calls, messaging, and social media can help you stay in touch with family and friends who live far away. And prioritize relationships by making an effort to maintain them. This may mean setting aside time to catch up with friends or scheduling regular visits with family members. For husbands and wives, schedule a date night, a night or maybe once a month where you go out, husbands and wife, you go out, go to the movies, go out to dinner, have a day when you take the children out, you know, because we all have such busy schedules that sometimes we may need to schedule them into our schedule, but it's important that we do that. So it's not just dad is at work 24/7, he's not around to go out. So if it means dad has a busy schedule, then dad, schedule once a month where you will go out with the family, go out with the children, go out with family and friends. We need to be intentional and schedule these things, because it's found that next slide, please. By maintaining social connections, it improves our mental health, reduces stress, and increased feelings of happiness and fulfillment. So it's important that we maintain our social connections. So I end my talk with some takeaway tips. Eat healthily. And one of the things we also need to do is chew our food, and it's found that we need to chew with each mouthful about 30 seconds. And when I was eating dinner last night, I realized that I think I chew my food in like 5-10 seconds and then I swallow. So I then remembered that I'm supposed to chew for about, on average, 30 seconds. And so I made an effort, a conscious effort, to then chew. And it means you're also enjoying your food, but it helps the digestive process. Obviously, there are certain foods that you may not be able to chew, like for us, from our neck of the woods, the swallow, we just swallow. But for foods that you can chew, try to chew for about 30 seconds. Maintain good relationships with people, like I said. Have an attitude of gratitude, very helpful for our mental health. Be positive at all times. Have regular quiet time to pray, to meditate, to reflect. Keep your home clean, because that peaceful environment is found to also help with stress. And cut down on your screen time. Next slide, please. Remember, health is wealth emphasizes the importance of good health as a key factor in leading a fulfilling and prosperous life. The greatest wealth is health. Thank you.
One, two. Thank you very much, Dr. Bridget. Can I have you back just a moment? I have a couple of questions that I think might be helpful to go through. Okay, so ideally I would have wanted us to sit down on this, but it's fine. I don't want to mess things up. So you did make mention to quite a lot of things there, right? You talked about managing stress, you talked about eating, you talked about sleeping, but there's a part that I perhaps wanted you to sort of shed light on, and maybe people in the room might want to hear, as well as people online. And this is the role of genetics in our health. So in cases where people have been, they have a history of high blood pressure in their family, or they have hypertension, or they have diabetes in their family. What sort of advice would you give to people that found themselves in that sort of situation?
I mean, I think, like everything, it's still preventive. So yes, genetics may predispose us to high blood pressure or diabetes, but the healthy lifestyle still helps, because you see, the person who's been predisposed to diabetes, if they live a healthy lifestyle, they eat well, they exercise, they're less likely to get the diabetes, despite, that genetic link. So you still need to maintain. If you've got high blood pressure, you need to maintain a good exercise regime and a good healthy diet, because obesity is one of the predisposing factors to diabetes. So if you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you won't be obese, you won't get diabetes. So it still helps, and those things still help, because my grandfather was diabetic, but then none of us, apart from him, are diabetic, because my father was very good with his exercise regime. He and my mom would walk a lot, he would play tennis. So my siblings and I, we try to do the healthy things. So, by God's grace, none of us is diabetic. So that's why I'm saying you can almost prevent it by your lifestyle.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that question is, sometimes when we listen to doctors and we go to, consultation, they kind of look at your family history, and sometimes you're afraid, you're like, okay, is this my destiny? Is this my generational curse? type of thing. Yeah. But it's good to know that you are not a victim, or you don't have to be a victim of your genetics. You can rewrite your story there. My last question will be around sleep, right? No, actually, I've got two more questions. One of it is positive stress. That sounds like an oxymoron. So can you shed light a little bit more on positive stress and why that is important as well?
I mean, because it motivates, it releases the cytokines, the things that help you so that you can be more productive. So you get married, it's an exciting time. You have a new job, it's exciting. If you love what you do, it's exciting. So though my work as a doctor can be a bit stressful, but because I enjoy it, I think I see the positive stress. So I go to work, I'm excited about the day, about what I'm going to meet. I have that positive attitude. So you go there, and if you're not overwhelmed, for instance, then it can make you more productive. So I think that's the thing. So when you're then overwhelmed with the negative stress, and there's just too much for you to do, you can't cope, you've got too much on your plate, that decreases your amount of productivity. It makes your infects your digestion negatively, etc. So it helps, it decreases your sleep patterns. So those things are then affecting your health. So like I said, the way the positive stress is that it's more of a motivational thing, whereas the negative stress it's almost like a demotional thing. So you need to be able to balance it out. So when you are feeling stress, know, and the tips I said, about clearing your environment, clearing your desk, taking a bit of time out, delegating, having a schedule, prioritizing, so that you don't feel overwhelmed. Because it's important, because one thing I also read is that with stress, the adrenaline that your body produces, your body doesn't know the difference between you being stressed at work because you've got too much to do, and you being stressed because you're being chased by a bear. So imagine your body is releasing the same amount of enzymes and hormones when you're being chased by a vicious bear as by when your boss is giving you all this work to do and you feel, I can't do it, I'm just completely stressed. Your body can't tell the difference between those stressors. So it's important that you realize what your stresses are and deal with them, because like I said, it has such a negative effect on our bodies. And I think in the environment we live in today, we all, there's a lot of stress, and which is causing a lot of mental health issues with a lot of our young ones, everything on media, what they see, what they hear, and we need to be able to shut down those things and not be negatively affected by the things we see and hear, because it is affecting, and mental health is such a big part of our lives today, whereas 10, 20 years ago you didn't really hear about mental health, but mental health is out there. But I think we need to deal with stress, with eating, with exercise, with sleep, because all these things also affect our mental health.
Awesome. Now, my last question, but before I ask the question, I'll just put a bit of a background. So there's a study that shows, that says that we are exposed in our generation now, or in the world we live in now, we're exposed to an average of 1,000 to 5,000 marketing messages on a daily basis, right? As soon as we get out of the house, and all of those things contribute to our stress levels. And it's so important to have, or like I like to put it, start to identify your stressors and have a list of that, and have a table that says this is a negative and this is a positive, and work towards it. Now, to link that to sleep, the advice, some people say 7 hours, some people say 9 hours, some people say 6 hours. Even, there are certain successful people who would boast of 5 hours, and they've been doing 5 hours all their lives, and they're in their 70s and they're fine, in a sense, right?
I said on average 7 to 9. Ideally, that's what the studies show. 7 to 9 is what we should be aiming for, but obviously each individual is different. So some may need a little bit less. So some may need closer to 9, and others may need closer to 7. But at the end of the day, I think the important thing is try to manage it. Try to have a regular sleep routine, I think, is probably the best thing. So depending on whether you're 6, you're 7, you're 8, try to manage a regular routine. I think that's what the studies show is most important. So whether it's 7 hours for you or 6 hours or 5, if you're doing it every day and you have that regular routine, because I have friends who say they go to bed bang on 9 o'clock every day, and I'm like, really? How do you manage that? I can't. I just about manage 10 o'clock, but it's regular for them, so they're refreshed and everything each day. So if you can manage the routine, and I noticed on my phone, those of us with iPhones, the other day I was trying to set my alarm clock, and the phone wouldn't let me. It said I had to go into the health mode of the phone, which I went into, and then it talks about sleep. So the phone, I now set my alarm based on this sleep app under the, in the phone. And it then said to me, because it was now about 10 o'clock, and it kind of flagged, and it said, oh, if you're sleeping now at 10:30 and you want to wake up at 5:30, you haven't had enough sleep. So the phones are now helping us and telling us. So it was now like it wanted me to sleep more, because it was saying you haven't had your allotted sleep. So I think it's about routine, though. If you can manage a regular set routine, And if it's 6 hours, then stick to your 6 hours every day. If it's 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, whatever your time span is, make it regular. I think that's as much as possible. Obviously, there'll be times and days we can't, but as much as possible, have a regular sleep routine because it decreases and helps your stress levels and improves mental health and all the other things I went through.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Bridget. Please, a round of applause. Thank you. I think, you know, when we look at health and we talk about it, sometimes what we're looking at is longevity of life. And it is a blessing, it's a gift to live a long life. But it's also great to live that with health. You know, one of the things I love to admire are people in their 90s still going for walks. And people in their 70s still able to go for long walks, and they enjoy nature, because it's beautiful when we live. God has made this beautiful earth for us, right? And how do we shortchange ourselves through that life when we don't work on our health? You know, no matter how much success we have, no matter how much money we have, it can never, ever, ever measure up to having a healthy lifestyle. Because some people chase money, right, all their lives, only for them to use that money to try and buy life back. And it's always a sad situation. So we have to be very critical on these things. And I also love the fact that Dr. Andrew also mentioned around the mental health. We don't look at that as much anymore. We didn't used to look at that much back in the days, but it's become very critical because our mind is a gift. Our mind in the battlefield is always the mind. If the enemy wants to attack us, he attacks our mind. Once he wins the mind, it will get your money. Once he gets the mind, it will get your family. Once he gets the mind, it will get your health. Once he gets the mind, he gets everything else. So I love the fact that she really honed in on our mental health as well. So I would want to ask you to think of this, and those who are online, what are the things that you are going to do about your health from what you've learned today? I want you to take a quick 5 minutes, think about it and write it down. Is there a particular physical exercise or physical part of your life that you're not working towards? I want you to take 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to just think about it and write it down. Look at how you are, how active you are. Perhaps you want to improve that. You want to go from 5 minutes walk to 15 minutes walk. Write down and set a goal towards it. One of the reasons why people don't achieve much from conferences and events like this is that they don't write down what they are going to do about what they've learned. So I want to give you 5 minutes to just think through it and write it down. Just write it on your notepad, write it on your phone. For those online, just 5 minutes, and I'll get out of your way. It could also be a goal related to your mental health. Perhaps you've not looked at what your positive stress are and your negative stress. Maybe you want to set a goal around identifying what are those things that are stressful, but they're positive stress. They're things that you want to do more of. Ideally, I would, if it was a class setting, I would give you a quick table, and I will say that you should break it down into 4 quadrants. What you want to do more of, what you want to do less of, and what you want to continue doing, and what you want to stop doing. But we don't have time for that because it's not that session this morning. But that's a guide. You can use that as well as a guide to draw up exactly what you're going to do moving forward concerning your physical or your mental health, anything that has to do with your health. So 1 more minute, and then we'll progress. All right, are we good? Or do we need a couple more minutes? All right, are we good? Have we written something down? If we have, let me hear you say yes. Okay, that yes is not loud enough, so that means you're still writing. So I'll give you a couple more minutes. I must say that I love the enthusiasm. I love the fact that everyone's writing, so that's great. Okay, so thank you for writing those things down. And now I'm going to progress on to bring Mr. Afolabi Andrew, who is going to give us a bigger background to what AAA Inspire is, as well as talk about unleashing the potential in us. As I mentioned when we started off, I believe that every single one of us came here for a purpose. Something made us necessary in the mind of God. But one of the biggest failing of a man is when he lives all his life in his potential. I'll say that again. One of the biggest failing of a man is when he lives all his life in his potential. We are not meant to live in our potential. We're meant to live out our potential. We're meant to unleash our potential. As a matter of fact, if you want to know anywhere that has the most potential in the world, if the capital city of potential, the capital state place of potential is the graveyard. If you go to the graveyard, a lot of people, a lot of potential there. So we are not meant to live in that potential. That's not what we're supposed to. It's a great compliment when somebody says, oh, that person has a lot of potential. It's a great compliment. But we're not supposed to live in that place. We're supposed to live out, unleash our potential. And that's one of the things that Mr. Afolabi Andrew is going to be talking about. So let me introduce him. As I've mentioned, he is a father, a mentor. Actually, before I do that, can you look to your left of the room? Those are my kids. I haven't asked them to record Daddy, but they're recording Daddy already. Can you give a round of applause to those 2 beautiful girls? My biggest fans, my cheerleaders. Thank you, girls. All right, so I've mentioned earlier on, Mr. Falabi Andrew is a father, a mentor, a coach. He's done this for decades. There are the number of people who have been touched by his work, his tenacity, his commitment to helping people from all walks of life, male, female, young, old, Christian, non-Christian, whatever it is, across board. He's done it from the UK all the way to the Caribbeans, to Nigeria, other parts of the world. I'm going to introduce him. He is a name that is synonymous to the African Global Project, a role he has played quite remarkably for over 30 years. He's a man who operates with great passion, excellence, commitment, and dedication. Mr. Afolabi can also be described as a highly skilled organizer, a business strategist, and a brilliant communicator. A recipient of numerous awards that I cannot even mention all of them, but some of them are like the Millennium Achievers Awards presented by Sir Eddie George at the Bank of England in 1999, the Nigerian Golden Jubilee Award in 2010, the Nigerian Centenary Award in 2014, and also it was presented an award from I believe this is European Leadership Award, which was presented to him at the House of Lords. Mr. Falabi Andrew is a BA Hons and MBA degree holder, and he has been instrumental in the development of numerous high-impact initiatives, both in the USA, Europe, the Caribbean, and Africa. And some of those initiatives include the Engineering Forum of Nigeria, the Best of Nigeria Expo, the Nigerian Global Business Forum, the Nigerian British and American Awards, and a host of others. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Falabi is currently the CEO of Global Africa Investments Limited, a company established to promote bilateral trade investment between Africa and the world at large. Can you please put your hands together for Mr. Afolabi Andrew?
Thank you, Sheo. Bless you. I'm going to move this slightly away from me. Thank you. Thank you. Let me start by thanking you all, those online and here, the auditorium this morning, taking time out to just listen on what we intend to bring to fore. My wife started, and I think she, for me right now, has created a bit of a tall order. So I'm going to be trying to jog my way to see if I'm able to even get close to how she has done in her presentation this morning. It's been brilliant and fantastic. AAA was set up, like Sheon said, a good number of years ago. It's actually AAA Inspire. And the whole idea behind it is very simple: to inspire people to attaining their potential into reality, attaining the reality of their potential, let me put it like that. Just like he said, potential is latent. Potential is like a revolver that you place on a table and fully loaded with the bullets. It stays there, as they would say, that that revolver has the potential to cause damage. Not until you pull it up and you press the trigger, nothing's going to happen. But the kinetic force that is released once that trigger is pulled will cause damage and harm to anyone that comes on its pathway. This morning, we're going to be talking about unleashing your potential. For me, unleashing potential is about taking people from where they are now and helping them realize their dreams and goals. Whatever they might be. It's a process of releasing people from what is holding them back, from the life they want, and helping them to achieve success. But more importantly, helping them to achieve purpose in life. Many a times, we tend to underestimate our capabilities and abilities. There is so much in the inside of us. But the truth really is that not until we start to dig in, not until we start to huddle over those factors that to a very large extent have held us bound. And I must say this so we are under no illusion whatsoever. Your potential is directly linked to God's purpose for your life. So, what is inside of you that we call the potential itself can be seeds of greatness. Of course, if we are to look at it from a divine perspective, we'll start to have a better understanding. An understanding of the reason why we are expected to step out from our comfort zone and start to ride in the place that impact will become more evident. And let us appreciate that Almighty God, in His own infinite grace and wisdom, identified you, and I mean you, as one that will carry that seed, the seed that would be described as a potential blessing, a potential key to releasing countless, even from a place of bondage. I want to apply biblical principles here this morning, because we've got to appreciate that no matter what our stance in life is, it is born out of a plan from above. We're all spirit beings. We're all God's creation. And just like I said, designed for His own purpose. For anyone that is operating below the expectation of God, what it simply means is that the person is not aligning with the designed plan, the orchestrated plan that God had instituted concerning that person's life. Let me draw it further so we can start to appreciate this. See it from this perspective. A serial investor. What an investor will do would be to invest in products or services, or even, let's take it further into the market, the capital market, bonds and stocks that will yield high returns. That is a principle that I can tell you we've learned from the Maker Himself. He's the greatest investor. of all. He's invested in you what is described as potential. He took time out deliberately to seed inside of you those skills, those abilities that he's confident that at the point in time of realization, you will start to fulfill the purpose that he has ordained and set for you. That is why we look at an example in the book of Exodus, chapter 36, verse 1. It talks about two men, Bezalel and Oholiab, and all the skilled craftsmen to whom the Lord gave wisdom and understanding to know how to do all the work in constructing the sanctuary and to do everything that the Lord has commanded. These men were gifted the ability in craftsmanship. What is that skill inside of you? Do you really know? Could it be the skill of creative abilities or even craftsmanship? Some have the gifts in cooking, communications, innovation, sporty, writing, and much more. They are gifts that have been seeded inside of man. But you must realize those giftings, because the truth be told, whether it be in the creative arts, whether it be in music, whatever the skill that God has placed inside of you, it is designed for a purpose. And that purpose is to bring about an impact to humanity. Let me encourage somebody this morning. You are more than you think of yourself. You are much more valuable. So imagine what you would do if you were not scared of stepping out of your comfort zone. Just imagine. Just think about it. The possibilities, the amazing things that can be a resultant of not being scared. What if you had a life without those self-constructed walls around you? Mindset. We tend to create those walls of impossibility. I'm not able, I can't do it. But God has seated inside of you those abilities, those special giftings. What if those graces and bruises from life disappeared and you were free to step forward? Just imagine what you will be able to do. Mindset. What about if you just about got excited about what could be rather than being held back by the risk of what might go wrong? Think about it. It really is an oyster, the feaster of greatness. Absolutely amazing things that you have the potential to do. But that potential has to become a reality. What about if you stopped settling for it's okay, I'll get by? And that is the story all over the place. It's okay. I'm not going to rock the boat. Let's not push it too much. We're just fine. We're just okay. Is that what the Creator expects? Remember, He is the ultimate investor. It's not about you. It's not about me. It really is His purpose, what He wants through you to be translated into reality. And we must be awakened to this truth. What if the biggest risk of all is the fact that you're not doing what you want with your life? Many people are in a place where they are struggling simply because they are least interested in what they are doing. It is a chore. They're just doing it to get by, to be able to pay the bills, just to take care of this and take care of that. But fulfillment has already been eroded on. And the truth really is that there is a limit because you're not passionate about what you're doing. Passion is that fuel that will take you from that place of potential into operating at the greatest height of fulfillment. In the book of Genesis, chapter 1, from verse 26 through to 28, the Bible talks about God creating man. And in the creation of man, He said, let it be like us. So He created man in His image. Think about that. In His character, in His capabilities. So everything that will make you to be potent out there, to be formidable, to operate in great, awesome power, was set from the inception of creation. And He commanded man to rule over everything that exists. Everything, without an exception. So, right where you are, I want you to understand that you have been positioned in a place of great authority. Your position cannot be questioned. It's what you say that is final. But the question really is that do you recognize those abilities and the rights that you have? That covenant right. If we're not clear on this particular scripture, if it sounds a little bit controversial to us, then let's look at Genesis 2:7. What does Genesis 2:7 say? It says that God created man out of the dust of the earth. And He breathed upon man. He breathed upon man, please take note, the breath of God. And man became a living being. So you are a carrier of God's breath. You are created in His image. You are dangerous, absolutely powerful. You have nothing to do with failure. You cannot operate as a second fiddle. We're not talking about amassing phenomenal wealth. No. That is a byproduct. What we are saying this morning is unleashing what God has placed inside of you to start to influence creation. Anything contrary to that, you are operating way below expectation. You must not be happy with yourself if you are not riding on that horse charging to heights beyond imagination. we understand that many a times we can struggle. We struggle because of life issues. We're caught up with a lot of trials and challenges and manner of things. And to an extent, it becomes a situation where man is beclouded. So when we talk about being beclouded, it's a cloud that covers your ability to see further afield. So we need help. Therein, in the book of Acts, chapter 1, and I'll just summarize the story. Our Lord Jesus Christ was just preparing to exit from planet Earth. And he gathered his disciples together. And he gave them specific instructions. He told them that even as he would leave shortly, that he will send one to them, and through that one they'll be able to do greater things. And he told them where to go. They must not leave a particular location. And true to life, in the book of Acts, chapter 2, from 1 to 4, they all gathered there in what was described as the upper chamber room. And they were, as the Bible says, in one accord. They followed instruction, and they were waiting upon what had already been promised. And of course, the Holy Spirit came in a very powerful way upon the disciples. And what the Bible says is that they started to manifest in different ways. Now let me just draw to our attention some personalities and characters amongst the fold. And I'll use one example, Peter. Peter was an illiterate fisherman. He didn't have the diction or the communication skills as would be expected in the particular class structure. So to communicate to a multitude would have been a big challenge. It would have been an uphill task. But from the moment he experienced the power of the Holy Spirit, the potential in Peter was unleashed. He got out there, as we read further on in the book of Acts, started ministering with such power, with such eloquence, and thousands were being drawn in every day. What am I saying this morning? Because we must fulfill purpose, because we must unleash the potential, God-given potential inside of us, we need the Holy Spirit. And as we start to align with the Holy Spirit, we'll start to experience a completely different dimension of his power. You must establish your mark. Let me repeat that again. You must establish your mark. You cannot just be just somebody. You must be an icon in whatever you do. Just like I said, it's not about amassing financial gains. But your life must not just be about you. It must not just be about your nucleus. It mustn't be about the things that just satisfy yourself and your family. You have to be a real influencer and an impact into humanity. I'm going to tell us a few stories right now, just to share some examples of people who, from very humble beginnings, impacted their generation. And their name continued to reverberate till this very day that we stand. There was this young lady who at a very young age of but 12 years old, she had made up her mind that she was going to follow the pathway of being completely dedicated to the things of God. And she decided to be a nun. 40 years on, having dedicated her life completely into that particular lifestyle, she then set up a charity organization, Missionaries of Charity, that was set up in 1950 by the lady called Mother Teresa, who today is known as Saint Teresa. She was a poor woman. But I'll tell us something. Wherever that name is mentioned today, by virtue of the potential within her being unleashed, there is a lot of respect. Her name commands respect. She committed her ministry to operate as part of the key principle of people who are poor. So they had to be themselves deprived of any form of financial benefits, but ensure that their lives are completely sacrificed to help the poor and the needy. Saint Teresa, her name. Another gentleman, another personality, this time a gentleman, who hailed from a very poor family, extremely poor family in the United States. His mother died when he was pretty young. Inasmuch as the father was around, but the mother was effectively the pillar in the home. And that 12-year-old daughter, being the eldest at that point, became the mother of the children. So she took the responsibility of taking care of this young man. But the young man could not bear the kind of life that they were exposed to. And he started to commit himself to reading. He was self-taught. He fought his way through life and became a lawyer, a successful lawyer. And not only that, he pushed further on. On the race of the presidential run in the United States, he emerged as the president of the United States of America. The name Abraham Lincoln. And I'll mention two more. Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin, likewise, emerged as the president of the United States. But not only the president of the United States. Benjamin Franklin was a scientist. He was an inventor. He was a statesman, diplomat. He was a printer. He was a publisher. He was a political philosopher. He was described to be among the leading intellectuals of his time. He was the founding fathers of the United States, a drafter and a signer of the United States Declaration of Independence, and the first United States Postmaster General. Some of his notable inventions include swim fins, which he invented in 1717, Franklin Pennsylvania stove, 1741, the lighting rod, 1750, the flexible catheter, 1752, and of course, the 24-hour three-wheel clock that was much simpler than all other designed of day. That was in 1757, and a few more inventions. He had a potential. Just like Abraham Lincoln, just like Saint Teresa. It all started from the position of potential, just like you, just like me. But they did something about it. They did something practical about it. They embarked on self-discovery. And in the process of self-discovery, they realized that they were able. I mentioned one more person. One that today we are all beneficiaries of his product. His product has been mentioned a couple of times this afternoon, even during Dr. Andrews' presentation. Graham Bell. He was born March 3rd, 1847. He was a Scottish-born inventor, scientist, and engineer. He's credited with the patenting of the first practical telephone. He was also the co-founder of the American Telephone and Telegraph Company, the AT&T. That was in 1885. Who does God say you are? Who does He say you are? It's a personal question. They recognize who they are at that point in time. But the question really is, who does God say that you are? The book of 1 Peter 2:9, we're described as a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people of His own possession. And it goes on. That is enough just for me to key in to who God says I am. If God says that I am a chosen of His, if He says that I belong to that royal priesthood, and describes me as a holy nation, it means that I am unique. It means that I stand out. Even before stepping on that accelerator towards realizing the giftings inside of me, He's already told me who I am. And I'd like to believe that in the same manner, you can see yourself from that perspective. Not until we awaken from what could be a bit of an illusion or even a dream that potentially holds man bound, it will continue to be a bit of a challenge. We need to be awakened from that hold back. Because the greatest investor wants a return on his investment. Am I able to deal with a lot of these things? Of course you can. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things. We already know that even from the experience of the disciples in the book of Acts, the cause of the manifestation of the Holy Spirit, also now integrated with the grace that we have in Christ. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So fear must not have a place in your life. Those holdbacks must now be done away with. We must start to see ourselves from a different perspective. You got to understand that you are here on a mission. You're here for divine purpose. Graham Bell, his role we are benefiting from today. Abraham Lincoln, he's a story on the lips of every single American. And I'd like to believe that nowhere in the world isn't that name revered. You can be that iconic figure. You can be that change agent. You can't be that person that will make a difference even in your generation. I say this to you, doesn't matter how old you are. We know the story of Colonel Sanders. It was in his 70s that he had the breakthrough that he had consistently and continually marched on to developing the recipe of the Kentucky that today literally litters every single corner. Don't just be any other person. You gotta hate the thought of just being just another person. Wherever you find yourself, if you're not happy there, if you don't feel a sense of fulfillment where you are, it's an indication that you truly are not on track. If the things that you do without any real challenge, that it comes so easy to you, it's an indication that that could well be the pathway. Identify that gift that will enable you to excel. Because the truth be told, if one is in a place where there is no fulfillment, the movement would always be sluggish. Because the mind is not even there. The heart is not there. It's just a chore. But when you trigger that particular point of interest, you will become unstoppable. I can do all things. If you've been going on that path and it seems as though it's not happening, it's not giving way, but you believe in your heart, and you believe in your heart that this is what you've been called to do, stay there. Don't give up. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. That is where the wheel will start to turn. And turn in your favor, but note, just like the story of a channel. The channel is there to support water flow from one point all the way through to the stream or into the river. As you become that channel of hope, as you become that channel of support, you will find that the whole process of what automatically will benefit those that you are the channel towards will equally start to benefit you. Most importantly, purpose must be fulfilled. My prayer for myself is this. At the point in time that I'm about to meet with my Maker, my deep desire is that I will have nothing left inside of me to give to the world. I would have emptied myself of all that had been given to me. Just like Sheol said earlier on. And it's the reality. The graveyard is where those who would have been the greatest composer, the greatest sportsman, the greatest politician, the greatest of the greatest, but never realized those abilities. Such travesty, I would say. And I know that the very fact that you took time out of your very busy schedule to be here today and also listening online. you desire. You desire to unleash the potential in you. So as I start to draw this to a close, I'm just going to share with us a few tips. And I believe that these tips will help us somewhat in being able to have a clear mind on unleashing our potential. The first, set goals. You got to set goals. You get what you can focus on. If you focus on the things that are wrong, you increase the chances of that happening. If you focus on limitations, ultimately you'll be limited. But you got to focus really on what you desire. What do you want? What do you want out of life? Those are the questions. What you sense in your heart that is so burning that you want to step out and achieve? Set it as a goal. And get a goal. You must not be like a rootless sheep on the sea being blown from one point to another point. Got to set your eyes on that focus point. Understand your strengths and what you truly love. It's only when you know your strength that's when you'll be able to understand what you're great at. And you must balance these with what you love. The combination of strength, passion, focus, tenacity should never be underestimated. It's a power combination. Finally, take risks. Let me repeat that again. Take risks. So you could tweak it and say, I will step out by faith. In the world, we take risks. But as divinely led, we apply faith. Most people hold themselves bound and back from their goals because they're not willing to take risks. You must not be afraid of taking risks. Rather, embrace it. Step out of your comfort zone. That's truly where the magic is. And that's where the magic happens. As you step out of your comfort zone, great possibilities will now start to emerge. If you don't step out of your comfort zone, you will never know those great opportunities. You will never realize what God has in store for you. There's nothing really called failure. It's just learning another way, achieving that particular set plan. We're aware of many great men and women who've fallen many, many times. But they realize that none of that is going to stop them or hold them bound. I can tell my story. I can even write books and books in my personal experience. But you must take those risks. Apply the faith. And I can assure you that you will be the better of it. In conclusion, remember, at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the whole essence of your existence. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your audience. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrew. I think that deserves a big round of applause. It's so instrumental what he shared, and one of the things that comes to mind as he spoke, or one of the things that came to mind as he spoke, was the importance of seeing ourselves as a channel, as seeing ourselves as a pipe. If we see ourselves as a tap, then we are limited to seeing ourselves as the source. And therefore, we need to have more resource to become that source. But when we see ourselves as a pipe, what happens is the pipe only transports the resource from the original source to those who needs it. And it's important to keep seeing ourselves as that pipe. I think that is one elementary part, and that switch in our mind makes a huge difference. I loved how, he talked about moving from your potential, as in just coming out and taking that risk. I don't know if you've ever seen a video on Instagram or social media where they just throw babies inside water. If you've ever seen one, they just threw a baby inside the water and you just see the baby moving and the baby just swimming and just moving and moving and moving. And then they show 6 months, 6 years down the line, and the baby is such a fantastic swimmer. Now, that's a huge risk I wouldn't advise people to do. But that being an extreme situation, if that baby was not exposed to water as early as possible, it becomes much more difficult. Somebody like myself, I only started learning how to swim 2 years ago. And every time my swimming instructor looks at me, they just encourage me in the Lord. They say, you're trying hard. But then I watch my kids swim, and I'm like, these ones, they came out of me like this. Then I console myself with that Yoruba proverb that says, out of a black pot, the white pap comes from. So I console myself. But they swim because they've been exposed early. It's risky. I remember when we just thought, okay, they're going to start swimming. My biggest fear was water. Because I had a fear, I had a phobia for water based on my past experience. I had serious aquaphobia. But imagine if I moved that and translated that to the poor kids. I say that to say, perhaps the reason why you're not exposing yourself and the reason why you're not taking that risk is because you're still listening to the voice of somebody who was too afraid to do it themselves. What if you lose all your money? What if you lose all the respect you've worked on? What if you lose this? What if you lose that? And that voice keeps going on. And we have to step out of that. I love how he also talked about not letting fear hold us back. Fear in itself is false evidence appearing real. It looks real. It looks real. It feels real. But when you counter that with the scripture that he said, which is, I can do all things. All things. You know, if we look through church history, if we look through political history, if we look through academic history, there were so many points in life where people said, that's not possible. Oh, it's not possible to go to the moon. Oh, no. We've not even finished exploring the earth. You want to go to the moon? And then a president said to his people and said, no, we're going to set a goal and we're going to put a man on that moon. A foot is going to step on that moon. And everything came to pass. But you know the good part of the time that we live in? Only about 30% of the resource and energy that went into creating the rocket space that took that man to the moon years ago. Only about 30% of the energy and the resource in your mobile phone took that man to the moon. So great news. Great news. Great news. I love how we talked about Colonel Sanders in his 70s. Several attempts. You know, as I near my 40s, I know you're all perhaps older than me, but as I near my 40s, it's one of the biggest things I have to deal with is that external pressure that says, oh, you could have achieved that in your 20s. You could have achieved that in your 30s. But when I hear such a statement as I can do all things, I'm reminded that I still have latter years, greater years ahead of me. Now, when I hear the story of Colonel Sanders, I'm even more excited. Anybody 70 in the room? Okay. Nobody 70 in the room. So we're all on the same boat, and a great boat that is. Thank you very much, Mr. Ando. Please, a round of applause once again for Mr. Ando. Now, for those who are watching online, I do apologize. Some people messaged me saying that they had an initial problem connecting. I hope you are able to connect and you've been able to glean from such a wonderful time that we've had in the room. If you missed any point, we would ensure that we re-upload and work on that so that the parts that you've missed, you can go back. And you can also go back and re-watch this over and over again. Share it with people. Don't forget to subscribe on our channel. Follow First View as well. Subscribe and listen to these sort of information. We are going to be doing more of this, I believe so, Mr. Andrew. This is just the first of many where we'll be bringing together minds that have pushed the boundaries, different works of life, that they've pushed the boundaries. I know we usually have other sessions where we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about business, but this is really about the mindset, because nobody can achieve anything without the right mindset. You know, I'll share this story of Alhaji Dangote, right, which is quite fascinating. Years ago, when he was going to start his business, he sat down with his mentor, who was the part of the Dantata family, and he sat down with him. And the man looked at him and said, well, I would loan you this amount, I will give you this amount to get your business started, but I must tell you a story first. And let me tell you this story, and the reason why I want to tell you this story is because I need you to have the right mindset. He said, years ago, when they started, that's the mentor, and they were making a lot of money. One of his cousins at the time was in London, and flew and said at 2 a.m. they wanted to eat suya. And then they flew the plane to Nigeria to go and buy suya and come back. Then the man said to him, he said, 10 years down the line, that cousin of his became broke, became one of the poorest people within their circle. He said, I'm telling you this, Aliko, that the mindset is much more important than the money. When you have a mindset, a wasteful mindset, you cannot go far. And that mindset is one thing I gleaned from Alhaji Dangote. And no wonder it continues going and going and going and going. It doesn't look like it's going to stop. Just because of that mindset. And it's not about the money. If you've watched any of his video, one of his videos, he said he stopped feeling rich when he first made his $1 million. After that, everything else was just numbers that he doesn't really think about as much. But he keeps going. Now that's a part of the mindset. Just a part of the mindset. And I love how Mr. Andrew talked about, it's not about material, it's not about the money. Because if you don't have that mindset, then that resource itself doesn't come. It doesn't come because money itself is a spirit. And it does have those principles. So we're going to be bringing people like that who have talked about, who have walked in this. We're also going to talk about people who have failed in certain areas of their lives and the lessons they've learned. And then we're going to talk about these tactical things that we can apply in relationship, in spirituality, in health, in different aspects of our lives. So stay tuned. This is going to be a wonderful journey that you would not regret being a part of. I am going to ask you to do one last thing before we close. I want you to go to someone next to you, behind you, and tell them one thing, or maybe a couple of things that you learned that you are grateful for coming this morning. So I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. Just go find one person and just tell them that, what it is. And if it's one of our speakers, if it's perhaps how they explained it, let them know. What did you learn? So are you going to tell us what you learned? The mindset is more important than money. Go on.
Your mindset is more. I've learned that my mindset is more important than your money.
Thank you. All right. Let me finish. Give me 5 minutes. Sit down. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you, because I feel like it's been a working session where I've been writing down a whole lot of things, and I am going to apply most of it. Please, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, put your hands together for our speakers, Dr. and Mr. Ando. Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much. And I wish you a great success. Remember to live inspired and continue to inspire others as you've been inspired today. Thank you very much for your time.